The power of the dark side.
Hello everyone, what's up? It's Luke here. I'm back with a new video. As you guys know, Queen has been a topic of discussion for 2 previous videos of mine. As far as the Bohemian Rhapsody movie goes, it received a mouth-watering $907 million at the international box office. I think we can all agree, regardless of each fan's respective opinions on the movie itself, the fact that it grossed $907 million is a most impressive goal. Also, in an express.co.uk article, Brian May himself is quoted as saying that the rumours of a Bo-Rap sequel are true. As I was listening to Queen's 1991 studio album Innuendo as part of the Queen binge that I went on for my previous video, an idea struck me, and that leads us to the subject of this video. If a Bohemian Rhapsody sequel does come to be, then which songs from Queen's catalogue would be key focuses of the movie? Well, I've chosen 10 songs which I believe would be focused on in the Bohemian Rhapsody sequel if one ever does get made. Just before we begin, I want to stress that this song selection is simply my own opinion. If you disagree, that's fine. With out of the way, let's begin. The first song which I believe would be a key song in the Bo-Rap sequel is One Vision. As we saw in the latter half of Bohemian Rhapsody, the bond between Queen fractured when Freddie dropped the fact that he was given a $4 million advance payment for his solo album Mr. Bad Guy by CBS Records.
I want to know how much they paid
$4
you.
million!
I'm pretty sure that all of us who have seen the movie recall the argument that ensued and how Freddie chose to walk away from Queen completely.
You'd be a dentist drumming 12/8-time blues at the weekend at the Crown and Anchor. You would be Dr. Brian May, author of a fascinating dissertation on the cosmos that no one ever reads. And Deaky, for the life of me, nothing comes to mind.
Though, just for clarification's sake, that's not historically accurate. However, after the love of Freddie's life, Mary Austin was able to open Freddie's eyes to the scummy manipulation that Paul Prenter had been up to. Freddie apologised to the other members of Queen, they reformed and delivered their 20-minute showstopper of a performance at Live Aid. A performance that has gone down in music history as one of the greatest rock performances of all time. Shortly after Queen dominated Live Aid in real life, a surge of new energy entered the band's being as they returned to the recording studio in Munich to record their 1986 album, A Kind of Magic.
It was a shot in the arm, and we went back in the studio because we were back in Munich with all its attendant dangers. So we tried to keep ourselves in the studio as much as possible.
This is where One Vision could come in. It could excite us as the viewers and get our blood pumping, like, yeah, Queen are back. Also, there is an 18-minute documentary which is entirely dedicated to the making of One Vision. If any of you have seen the Bohemian Rhapsody movie, you'll know that it presented to us the behind-the-scenes creation process that the band went through to make that song, and did the same again for We Will Rock You, though the case of the latter is not historically accurate, really. So why not recreate certain moments from the One Vision documentary for this movie? Also, why not throw in a scene or two recreating concerts from the A Kind of Magic tour whilst you're at it? The second song which I think would be focused on in the Bo-Rap sequel is Who Wants to Live Forever. I didn't mention it when talking about One Vision, so I'll mention it here. There's a Queen documentary that focuses specifically on the Kind of Magic album, and in that documentary it is mentioned that the director of Highlander presented Queen a 20-minute cut of the film, which gave the band enough ideas to start writing songs about it. For anyone who has no clue as to what Highlander is about, It focuses on a guy who is immortal and he can't accept that. It's also made known in the movie that if he falls in love with a mortal, he will pay the price for that. However, he falls in love with a mortal woman, she grows old and dies in his arms, and that point of the film was the source of inspiration for Who Wants to Live Forever. Brian May also related the loss of a loved one that we see in Highlander to what was going on in his own life at the time, because he had lost his dad around that point.
I was dealing with various tragedies in my own life, the death of my father, death of the marriage, etc., etc. It was almost complete in the car going home. I remember singing it to my manager as he drove me home.
So, the scene where Brian is mourning the loss of his dad, and perhaps we see him start writing Who Wants to Live Forever somewhere, which would also serve as a means for the movie to pull the heartstrings of the audience. This next song could be part of a montage. As previously mentioned, Queen were approached by Highlander's director to contribute to the soundtrack of the movie. Note that I said contribute. They were only supposed to create one song for the movie as opposed to the entire album. But hey, for Queen fans, the more the merrier, am I right? Anyway, another song that I think would be useful for the movie is Kurgans Theme, also known as Gimme the Prize. Gimme the Prize! In the Days of Our Lives documentary, Roger recalls how, for the A Kind of Magic tour, every single show was perfect.
They were our final shows with Freddie, and I remember it being pretty much perfect.
Now, I'd much rather have scenes dedicated to entire concerts. However, the Bo-Rap movie made very prominent use of montages, particularly when it came to showcasing Queen on tour. As such, if a sequel were to be made, I imagine montages would again be used as a frequent means of transitioning from one scene to the next. Gimme the Prize could be used as a means of, again, exciting the viewers and presenting Queen's dominance at the forefront. The next song I've chosen is from their next album, that being the 1989 album, The Miracle. However, I shall give you some context behind how this song came to be. Brian had two known significant others. The first one was apparently Chrissy Mullen. However, it was by the late 80s that Brian began blossoming a relationship with Anita Dobson, who later became his wife.
But when I fell in love with this woman, who was not my wife, there was absolutely no way I could shake it.
According to Brian himself, Anita was very ambitious. She even went as far as to summarise that ambition with two simple anthemic sentences.
And she said to me, I want it all, and I want it now. And something clicked. I'm here.
I want it all, and I want it now.
I will admit, this song being on this list of mine is out of pure personal bias more than anything else. I might as well just say it now. I Want It All is my personal favourite Queen song of all time. At this point, Queen were burning all their energy reserves to create new music. That was mainly because of Freddie's insistence to continue creating more music no matter what happened.
You know what I'm suffering from, you know what the problem is, but I don't want to talk about it anymore. I just want to make music till the day I die.
Again, this is all down to my own bias. I would personally love I Want It All to be focused on in the sequel. I would even want to see behind the scenes aspects for the song, be it them actually writing it, or even making the music video to be showcased in the movie. In fact, that same desire of mine extends to every song on the Miracle album, and even Innuendo as well, if they would be willing to do that. It could, again, serve as a means to excite the viewers, and, I mean, it would certainly excite me, I'll tell you. The next song I would want to be a key focus is Scandal. Scandal! At this point in Queen's career, Queen became the talk of the town among the tabloid press. There are two key reasons for this. Firstly, there was Brian's then affair with Anita Dobson. The second, and more pressing of the two, was Freddie's battle with AIDS. However, the media were just being speculative, hounding vultures at that point. The intrusion that Queen were dealing with from the press was the source of inspiration for this song.
Particularly Freddie and particularly me, and a little bit later on Roger actually, were pursued by the media to a very destructive point.
Also, in the Days of Our Lives documentary, Roger recalls being particularly enraged upon seeing an image of Freddie in a newspaper published by The Sun. Understandably, Roger had his hint of frustration to vent out as a result.
The thing that annoyed me more than anything was a shot of Freddie in the sun. And he'd just come out of the doctor's, I think. And it was really grainy, full-page shot. Is this man dying? I thought, you
So, you could have a montage of the band suffering from intrusion from the press. Then they're like, okay, enough is enough, we have to vent this out somehow. Then we see this song being written, and maybe even go behind the scenes for the creation of the music video. This could make the audience's blood boil, and then also serve as a thrill to the audience from seeing Queen retaliate against the press through song. Now we're entering the territory of Queen's 1991 album Innuendo with this next track. However, a hint of context behind this. As Freddie's battle with AIDS prolonged, he did suffer a degree of physical degradation from the disease.
I remember we went out one night and he had horrible problems with his leg, and he showed me. He said, "I'm really sorry." He said, "I didn't mean to do that to you."
Even with Freddie's determination to continue working, he no doubt experienced moments of frustration brought on by his illness. As such, I imagine this next song was written as a means for Freddie to accept the situation he was in, or as a means of acceptance, rather.
I'm going slightly mad.
I'm Going Slightly Mad could be used to illustrate Freddie's acceptance for the fact that he doesn't have long left. There are also behind the scenes snippets for the music video that could be recreated for the movie. You may even get a chuckle or two out of it as a viewer. Also, even amongst the struggle, that didn't stop Freddie from exerting every fibre of enthusiasm he had into making more music. Even with that, Roger recalls being surprised that Freddie was willing to do I'm Going Slightly Mad in the first place.
He was determined to work right up to the last minute. So I was surprised that he did Going Slightly Mad.
Next we have Headlong. Headlong, if it were to be featured in the Bohemian Rhapsody sequel, that is, again, if it does get made, could be used to sort of lighten the mood amidst the band becoming more scared and more sad about what's happening to Freddie. Mainly because if you listen to the lyrical content, it's a bit on the cheesy side. I'll play for you a small snippet of that, so then that way you can see what I mean.
Hey, he used to be a man with a stick in his hand. Whoop diddy dang, whoop diddy do.
So again, it would be a way to present charm and humour. Now we're coming to one of the more iconic songs from Innuendo, that being the ballad These Are the Days of Our Lives.
These are the days of our lives.
Believe it or not, the song wasn't written about the struggle Queen were dealing with at this point in their career. For anyone who doesn't know this, Days of Our Lives was written by Roger. It was also written about Roger's own perspective on life and his family.
Roger started off writing These Are the Days of Our Lives about his kids and the way he felt about life and how it comes back. But of course, in that context, it had another meaning.
So, at some point, you could have a scene in the movie where Roger is perhaps alone in the studio and we see him writing the song. Then maybe another member of the band walks in and asks Roger, you know, what he's up to and what the song is about. Then we could see them make the Days of Our Lives video. It would serve the purpose of pulling the audience's heartstrings, and we'd also see what is kind of considered to be Freddie's final goodbye. Now we are at the penultimate song on my list. I imagine anyone who decides to watch this video kind of expected me to mention it. The credits for the Bohemian Rhapsody movie featured the jazz track Don't Stop Me Now, and this song I'm going to talk about. Also, again, there is that express.co.uk article I brought up earlier. If Brian and Roger haven't even so much as considered the possibility of doing a Bohemian Rhapsody movie sequel, then why were these particular songs used in the end credits, I wonder? That's just something I've begun to ask myself. I'm sure if you've seen the Bohemian Rhapsody movie, you already know what song I'm referring to. However, for anyone who doesn't know, I'm referring to this song.
The show must go on.
The Show Must Go On, for anyone who doesn't know this, was originally written by Brian May. He even recorded a demo for it himself, which even went so far as to include
Never giving in. On with the show.
I did a complete demo for The Show Must Go On, including that very high part, on with the show.
So you could have a scene where you have Brian recording the original demo for The Show Must Go On, then have a scene with Brian coaxing Freddie into recording the vocals for The Show Must Go On. Then we see Freddie just dominate the song in the recording studio. It would also strike the chord in the viewers and excite them, and again, another way to sort of pull at the heartstrings of the audience. To top it all off, it would somewhat add a final sweet cherry on top of a roller coaster ride of entertainment. We also could have a reaction shot from the rest of the band just after Freddie finishes recording the vocals, and then you've got the other three guys just jaw-dropped at it. Now we are at the final song on my list. Now, this song could be featured in one of two ways. It could have an entire sequence dedicated to it, or it could play in the end credits. However, for the sake of interest, let's go with the former idea. However, some context behind this. After Innuendo was completed, Freddie threw himself into being, to quote Brian May, the mouthpiece of Queen.
He kind of threw himself into being our mouthpiece.
His desire to keep working just continued driving him to the very end. This is where Mother Love comes in.
Mother love.
Mother Love would be yet another heartstring pull moment for the audience. You could have a scene where Innuendo is released and we see Freddie's desire to just continue working at its apex. If you've listened to Mother Love, you would know that most of it is a down-paced ballad. However, at around the halfway point, Freddie suddenly unleashes an absolute cosmic tidal wave. And I won't play it here for the sake of copyright. However, links to all sources in this video are in the description, so feel free to give the song a listen. Also, if you watch the Days of Our Lives documentary, Brian reveals something that is quite sad regarding the production of Mother Love.
We got to the last verse and he said, "Oh, I'm not up to this now. I need to go away and have a rest. I'll come back and finish it off, And he never came back. That was the last moment that I had with him in the studio.
That's why, if you've ever listened to Mother Love, you hear Brian sing the last verse instead of Freddie. In terms of how it could work in the movie, you could have a sequence where you've got Freddie and Brian in the studio, and Freddie's being as polite but also as insistent as possible, and you've got Brian, just writing down the lyrics as promptly as he can think of them, and then have Freddie sing them, have it build up to the monumentous midsection, and then at the last verse we could see Freddie in a state of physical burnout and make the promise to finish the song. Obviously, it didn't happen in real life, so we know that promise wouldn't be fulfilled, but it would just be, again, one final pull of the heartstrings for the audience. Well guys, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Until then, goodbye, you've been warned, and keep on rocking.